chains around their necks, carrying the drums on their heads, and just the African way. Their legs are in chains, and they're working in the plantation. I can see some palm trees there. Even the birds are flying across their heads, looking at them. They were actually suffering. They were suffering. They were working in the plantation. The slaves, the black African slaves, my brothers and sisters, they were overworked in the plantation. And I want to say that the slaves, they are great as well, because all that overwork they were doing in the plantation, it was unpaid labor. Today, when you're working in England, or when you're working in America, when you're working in Europe, they say, what's your national insurance number? And they tax you from there, but at least you get a wage. The slaves didn't have no national insurance number. The slaves were working day in, day out for unpaid labor, using their physical strength, digging the ground, cutting the trees, physical labor for unpaid labor. And I want you to understand that the black African slaves shouldn't be looked upon as slaves or slave descendants. Within the American society, and within the Portuguese society, within the European society, within the English society, those slaves and those slave descendants, because of what they achieved over the years, they should be seen as the elite in the hierarchy. You got the upper class, you got the middle class, you got the working class, but the elite is the highest. And those slaves, because of what they went through and because of what they achieved, they should be seen as the elite. That is my definition of the slaves, because of their hard works and their achievements. Now, the slave descendants need to be honored today because of their contributions to the Western world. The slave descendants in America today, they shouldn't be looked upon as slaves. They should be honored because of their contributions to the Western world. The Western world is what it is today because of the contributions of the slaves from 400 years ago. So the slaves from 400 years ago, they are the pioneers of the success of Europe and America. All right, it's their physical slaves, it's their physical strength that they poured into the society. And I want you to understand that these slaves should be proud of themselves because of their labor as well. You shouldn't be looking at yourself like a slave descendant, and say, no, I don't go there, I'm ashamed, no, I don't want them to see me, and I'm hiding. No, as a slave or a slave descendant, because of your achievements and because of the achievements of your forefathers, you should be walking with your head high and pop out your chest. You should pop out your chest. You say, yes, my forefathers were slaves, but without my forefathers, Europe wouldn't be as beautiful as it is today. America wouldn't be as beautiful as it is today. So as a slave or a slave descendant, you pump out your chest, raise your head high in pride. That's what I want you to do. The slaves, actually, they should be knighted for what they achieved. I think the slaves should be knighted. Look, that's the word there. Can you see it? A knight. A knight is like a king or a queen or an archbishop, like a great title within the society. Those slaves, because of what they achieved, they should be knighted. They should be looked upon in society as knights. People should look at them in awe and say, these people, they achieved so much. It's the black African slaves that made the American dream a reality. It's the black African slaves that made the European dream a reality. Because the Americans, they had the idea there. The Europeans, they had the idea there, but they couldn't carry it out. It was only a dream. They had that dream for thousands of years. They had that dream for millions of years, but they couldn't do it. But it's when they imported the African slaves over to America, it's when they imported the African slaves over to Europe, that dream became a reality. So props to the American slaves for what they achieved. The American slaves, in my books, they are heroes. And the female African slaves, they are heroines. If there's a word called heroines, I'm not too sure, but I wrote heroes because that's the one I'm sure about. The African slaves, when I read the history and when I look at the videos for what they achieved in a raw plantation, they are heroes, forever heroes. Forever heroes. That's what they are. Forever heroes. The African slaves, actually, because of what they achieved, they should be, it's the black man's face that should be on the American currency and on the English currency because of what they achieved. Oh yes, you know, what they achieved cannot be forgotten. And I think one way to reward the black African slaves that were taken from Africa is to put their faces on the African and European and American currency. That would be a great way to reward the Africans. And you know, black Africans are today proud of their slave brothers and sisters that were taken away. So if you go to Africa today, I don't know, maybe you go to Ghana, maybe you go to Ethiopia, maybe you go to South Africa, they are proud of what their slave brothers and sisters that were taken away achieved. Because when you look at America today, or when you look at Europe today, the way it's been built, the energy, the initial energy that has been contributed toward that success came from the black slaves. So when the black Africans back home, when they remember what their slave brothers and sisters contributed towards the success of America and Europe, we can only be proud of them. Yeah, because in the beginning, God made us all together as one black people. So the slaves, they contributed so much physical and mental strength also. There's a man in the Bible who goes by the name of Joseph. And Joseph was the son of, is it Jacob? Yeah, I think Joseph was the son of Jacob. Yeah, he was the son of Jacob. And his brother sold him into slavery. But the point I'm trying to make here is after they sold him into slavery and he was away in Egypt for so long, when his brothers saw him again, as the slave that he was, they were proud of him because he became a king. Joseph didn't remain as a king. When his brothers saw him again, they were proud of him. And I'm here to say to you that the black Africans back home, when we see our African slave descendants, we are proud of them also. Because what God has put together, no man can break it. If you go to Europe today, you go to America today, you got tourists pouring in. They're looking at buildings, they're looking at the road. They're in awe of the Western world. But thanks to the hard works of the labor of the slaves as well. America is looking so beautiful today. England is looking so beautiful today. Europe is looking so beautiful today. Tourists pouring from all over the world and they come and look. But what about the hard works of the slaves? Thanks to the hard works of the slaves. Thanks to the initial, original hard work of the black slaves. The African slaves should be remembered forever for their good works and their unpaid labor. I think the Africans, black Africans that were taken into slavery, they should be put in the Hall of Fame. Yes, if you go to America today, Tupac Shakur, he's in the Hall of Fame. I think Elvis Presley is in the Hall of Fame. Michael Jackson is in the Hall of Fame. So many great artists made it into the Hall of Fame. But I think the black African slaves from 400 years ago that were taken to Africa, that done all the work in the plantation, they should be the ones in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame don't mean nothing without the slaves inside there. That's my point. The black Africans that were taken away into slavery should be put into the Hall of Fame in America and in Europe. The black African slaves are the most important part of American history. The black African slaves are the most important part of European history. You can't talk about American history without talking about the slaves. You want to talk about the presidents from before? You want to talk about how the presidents have been transformed and they got to this point? No. American history cannot be, what's the word? Consulted without the ethics of the black African slave. Because I say in different words, without the black African slaves, America and Europe will still be a plantation today. All right. So American history, the black American slaves are the most important part of American history. There should be a public holiday all around the world. I think there should be a public holiday because of what the black African slaves, they really achieved. There should be a public holiday all around the world. The black American slaves were put into slavery in the first place because they were a very special people. They were a very strong people. They were mentally clued up. They were mentally aware. And that's why when the slave masters, when they went to China, they couldn't take the people. When they went to India, they couldn't take the people. When they went to North Africa, which is a part of Africa, they couldn't take the people. But when they came in contact with the black Africans, the indigenes of Africa, they found out that these people are a very special kind of people, because the energy alone can't do the job. You need the energy and the awareness. You need the energy and the qualifications. You need the energy and the smartness. And when the slave masters came over and they interacted with the black Africans in the African continent, they said, these are the people we need. So the black African slaves were a very special kind of people, and that's why they went into slavery in the first place. Nobody else could do that job as good as a black person. I think the slave descendants today, they should have their own national anthem around the world. The black African slaves should have their own national anthem around the world. There's this song that was sung by an African artist called Lucky Dube. Sorry, I'm not a great singer, but I'm going to sing this song. It goes like this. I am a slave, ooh. I am a slave, ooh. I am a slave from the peak of slave. Sometimes I cry, ooh, Lord I cry, ooh, Lord I cry from the peak of slave. I sang that song to let you know that what the black Africans faced during slavery in the plantation is enough for them to have their own national anthem around the world. It's enough for them to have their own national anthem around the world, because of what our ancestors suffered and what they went through. They have to have their own song. The slavery is a damage done to black people that will never heal. You know, when you get into a fight with someone and, I don't know, you get stabbed or whatever, with time it heals, you know? But what the slavery has done to black people over the years, it's a damage that will never heal. It's become a rift. It's become a rift. It's left a mark. You know, that's why sometimes black people and white people, they can't come together, because there's a rift inside. There's a misunderstanding, and slavery has brought this. Sometimes black people want to do their own thing. Sometimes white people want to do their own thing. It's because of the rift that the slavery has brought. So sometimes we try to turn a blind eye and act like slavery never happened. But the reason why the world can never unify is because slavery has brought a rift between different races. It's brought a rift. You know, I can close my hands like this because there's nothing in between. I can lock my hands like this, there's nothing in between. But if I was to put a big block in between my two hands, I can't lock it anymore. That's the rift right there. So as much as I'm trying to lock my hands, you can't lock, there's something in between. Slavery is the rift. It's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding that will never heal. I'm sorry to say that. There was a Nigerian man called the Jaja of Opopo. And he was taken into slavery. And he was taken to Europe. And over the years, Jaja of Opopo said, I've forgotten where I came from. He said, no, I can remember. I'm Igbo. He said, they took me from Port Harcourt. And he said, my name is whatever. But he said, I was taken into slavery. And too many years has gone past. The black slaves have to be recompensated for their unpaid labor. And their families that they never saw again. They have to be recompensated for the disconnection of their family. Black African slaves should be the proudest people in the world because of what they achieved. My name is Pastor Ojimba Alex. You've been watching Gospelfaith Television, and I hope that you really enjoyed my program today, which is called Slavery. God bless you. Peace. You can cut it out.